In today's video, we'll be jumping into something that I find really interesting, which is Python with Excel. We'll be focusing on two essential functions in the pandas library, which is read_excel and toExcel. So whether you're a business analyst, data analyst, or just someone looking to streamline their workflow, then this is the video for you. I'll be using Jupyter notebooks, but feel free to use any IDE that you feel comfortable using. And I'll also have this notebook as well as any other data that I use linked down below in case you want to follow along. So what is read_excel and toExcel? Well, they're both functions in pandas. However, read_excel is used for importing data from Excel files to pandas data frames, while toExcel is used for exporting data from pandas data frames to Excel files. They're both flexible, meaning that they can handle different Excel formats, and they both have a variety of parameters. However, we're just going to be going over the most common ones. So you probably have your own Excel file that you want to work with, but if you don't, you could just follow along with me. The Excel file that I'll be working with is called company data. Company data has two different sheets, employees and financials. The employees has information about the employees of the company, and then financials as well, the financials of the company. Now, quick tip, before you start playing with your data, just make sure that you close this Excel file, because otherwise you're gonna get an error. The library that we're gonna be using is pandas, so import pandas as PD. Now, how are you going to import the data? We're going to set a variable, let's call it df, short for dataframe, will be equal to pd.read_excel. And in parentheses, you're going to put the name of your Excel file. So in my case, it's CompanyData.xlsx. Now you want to make sure that you write this exactly how your Excel file is written because it is case sensitive. Now if we run dataframe or df, you're going to see our data frame here. You won't see all of the data, but you'll see down below that we have 1,000 rows by 12 columns. So I import data like this all the time. However, there's another way that I import data, and that's by setting the file path name. I get a lot of Excel files where they are in folders within other folders. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go to the location where the Excel file is stored. You're going to click on it, then right click it, and you're going to copy as path. Now before read_excel, we're going to set a variable. We could call it anything you want. Let's call it path here. Path will be equal to, and we're going to just paste that right in. Now I want to make sure that you add another backslash because that way you won't get an error. And here we see our CompanyData.xlsx. Now you're going to go ahead and replace the CompanyData.xlsx here and set it to path. And then when you run this, you're going to see the same exact data frame. Now, if you recall, I actually had two different sheets in my Excel file, the employee sheet and the financial sheet. However, the only one we see here is employees. And that's because by default, if an Excel file has multiple sheets, it'll just import the first sheet in the Excel file. So in my case, it was the employee sheet. So if you want to import other sheets or all sheets, you have to specify it, and you can do that by using the parameter sheet name. So we can go down here, set df all sheets equal to pd.read_excel, the same way we have at top, and then we're going to put path because that hasn't changed, and our sheet name, our parameter, will be set to brackets. You can put employees financials. Run that, and if you copy that over and print that out, you're gonna see a dictionary, and we don't really want that, right? We want to see the data frames, so we just have to call for each one of them. If we want to call for employees, we're gonna put brackets, and inside we're gonna put employees. Now we see our employees data frame, same as the one up top, and the same thing goes for financials. Set this to financials, and now we see the financials data frame. It looks a little weird up top, but we'll talk about that in a second. You can also import the sheets into their own data frames. So for example, df employees is equal to pd.read_excel, same as up top, path, sheet name will be set to employees. Now, if you see here, I didn't have to use the brackets, and that's because we were just calling for one specific sheet. So if I print that, you'll see the employees data frame. Same thing goes for financials. Change this to financials and change this to financials. Now we run that, copy this over to print it out. And now we see df financials here. Now, as I mentioned before, it looks a little strange up here, and that's because there are blank rows at the top of the Excel sheet. And this happens to me a lot with Excel files I use, where it's blank for the first 5 or 10 rows. Please comment down below if you have the same problem. So in order to get rid of these empty rows, we'll use a parameter called header. And header basically indicates which row to use as column names. So we know, for example, that I want to use this specific row, account, business unit, currency. I want to get rid of these null values. But before setting it, you need to know the location of the header, and you can determine that by looking at your Excel file. So to determine the header, you just have to count the blank spaces above. So for example, index always starts with 0, so we know that this is going to be 0, 1, 2, and 3. So I specifically have to start my header or set it to 3. You might have something else. Now make sure you also close this before you run your script. Now here I can set header will be equal to 3. If I run that, now we see that my data frame starts with an intended row as the header, which is account, business unit, and so on. Now over here, I have 351 rows. But let's say when I import this data, I only want to see 100 rows. We can use the parameter called nrows. Nrows can be set to 100. Now if we run that, you'll see here that we have 100 rows. Another parameter that you can use is called useCol, which selects specific columns to load into the data frame. So let's just delete that because I want to see all of my rows and set usecols equal to. And let's say that I just want to get the account and the business name columns from this data frame. Just set this to account and business units. Now run that, and now you'll see that we imported the data to only have account and business unit. Now, another parameter that we can use is called index call. And what index call does is that it sets one of these columns in the data frame as the index. So for example, let's just delete this because I want to see all of my data frame and set this to index underscore call. This will be equal to account. Now run this. And now we see here that our index is set to account. Now let's say that we're done importing our data, we're done cleaning it up. Now we want to export it to Excel. And we can use now the function called to Excel. So let's say that we want to export out DF employees and DF financials. First, let's export out DF employees. Dot to Excel. And in parentheses, you're going to put in the name that you want the Excel file to have. So let's call this employeesData.xlsx. Now we can run that, then go to a folder where your Excel file is. And now when you open it up, you'll see here employees data. So we have here the employees data. The only thing we may want to change is the sheet name, and we might want to get rid of this index. So let's go and do that. We can set the sheet name equal to employees, and index will be equal to false to get rid of that index. Now we run this again. We're going to see here now that the sheet was renamed to employees and the index is no longer here. Now, what if you want to export both data frames into the same Excel file? To do this, we can use pd.xlswriter. It's part of the pandas library and it's usually used with the toExcel method, except it helps when you need to write multiple data frames to the same Excel file. So let's put with pd.xlswriter, and let's call this Excel file all company data. As writer, colon, and we can copy this exact same thing over and just tweak it up a little bit. Change this to writer because now it's going to be all company data. And then down below, we can do the same thing for financials, except we're going to call the sheet name financials. Now run this. And now open up your folder and you'll see the all company data. All company data is here. So now we see in the all company data, we exported 2 Excel sheets, employees and financials. And now that wraps up Read Excel and toExcel. I hope that this helped. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.